Folks, welcome to a new week of Hobby Nightmares. I hope you are having a very good one and that you are, well, making sure that you're doing well this week. It's going to be a really cool week as we go into Halloween at the end of the week. I'm away this weekend, I think, and so I will be doing some Hobby Nightmares, some Halloween streams as we go along towards the weekend, as we did last year for Halloween. I'm going to be picking some pretty scary games and going through them, seeing what I want to play. But before I do that, let's get into some Hobby Nightmares. I have been told, reliably, from a reliable source, which is the person who wrote this, and also one or two other people who have read it, that this is going to be one of those doozies that you guys are going to like very much. It's a long one, so settle in, get yourself a cup of tea, hopefully Yorkshire tea, sit back and enjoy as we start a new working week with a new, very weird, very cringe, I've been told, Hobby Nightmare that deals with both sides of the hobby, the role-playing side and the tabletop side, which I quite like. I like stories that touch on both. So, let's get into it, shall we? Conscious Opal says, "Hi North." Hello, Conscious Opal. How are you? Hope you're having a very good day. "Thanks for what you do. It really helps me get through the bad days and enjoy the good ones even more when I'm having a laugh." Good. I've heard that's something. Well, I do that with content as well. Like, yeah, good content gets me through bad days. When I'm having a good day, it's like I've got a friend there actually, you know, celebrating my good mood with me, which is great. I love that. Awesome. Thank you. "I wanted to send in a Hobby Nightmare about a campaign I did a while back that combines tabletop role-playing and Warhammer 40,000. Essentially, a Dark Heresy campaign that eventually morphs into a few-year-long 40k narrative campaign, as our party of heroes lead massive armies against Xenos, heretics and each other. Essentially, the RPG Dark Heresy segment ended with the coming of the Great Rift in the lore at the start of 8th edition, and we had an entire system that went into complete anarchy. Different human factions fighting each other, different religious sects interpreting the Great Rift differently, chaos invasions, Astartes siding with one human faction or another. It was a glorious show that ended with the arrival an entire crusade of Black Templars, most of the Black Templars chapter in an almost complete numbers, to put down the anarchy and re-establish this sector of space as a God Emperor fearing holdout." Okay, that's a really cool way to reset your entire system. That's really cool. And the Black Templars just come in en masse and put everybody down. That's pretty cool. I like that. Because the Black Templars, also a very good choice of chapter, because they have far more numbers than any other Space Marine chapter. Well, most of them anyway. So even any other Space Marine chapters that are in the setting that you're playing in would be getting, you know, battered by the Black Templars, which I like. Cool. Opal says, "I loved my time running this campaign, but it initially started with a single Dark Heresy campaign that I was not even running. The DM for this Dark Heresy campaign was a guy we will affectionately call Steve. So, Steve is your typical neckbeard. Rather large, glasses, bad hair and skin, constant BO smell. But this does not make you a bad person. No, indeed it doesn't. Just one who may have a few issues going on, that are easily forgivable. But Steve played into the stereotype. His jokes were always on the rather edgy side, and they never seemed to land. I saw the other day Amy Schumer do a joke on YouTube about Ryan Dunn's death to Steve-O, the guy from Jackass. Yeah, so if you don't know, I think Ryan Dunn was the guy on Jackass who died in a car accident. Okay, and Steve-O was like his best friend. A little while after Ryan Dunn had died, on stage, in front of an audience, in front of Steve-O, to Steve-O. It kills Steve-O's vibe, and if you can kill that guy's vibe, just think what you're doing to everybody else. Well, that is what our Steve would do on a daily basis. It got to the point that he would do it so much, you wouldn't just call him out on it anymore. You'd just roll your eyes and carry on with the conversation that he was inevitably invading. This guy sounds like a right piece of work. Within our group, we had myself, Jack, a sanctioned psyker, Polly, an Adeptus Astartes officer, Adeptus Arbites officer, so a policeman, Mike, a swordsman from Calth, and Amy, a pilot and expert gunslinger, kinda like Cal Jericho, but one who can fly spaceships. Steve would take us through the campaign in a stop-start way, stopping all the time to get the injustices of the world revisited. To describe the injustices of the world we visited, the misery caused to the people, and how we were there to right these wrongs and liberate folk, so to speak, as inquisitorial henchmen. If you know anything about 40k, you know how much of a smooth-brained thing to do this would be. The Inquisition would torture them before the week was out at this rate. Not only this, he kept orchestrating situations into which Polly and Amy, the two girls of the group, would become in peril in some way, only for his noble-hearted, self-insert NPCs to come and save them. His male NPCs who did this all look like Steve. You know, if Steve was actually good-looking, took care of himself, and acted like Prince Charming from Shrek in an unironic way. This went on every week. Every week. It got to the stage where our party were getting out of hard encounters by playing on Steve's need to save the women by using them as bait for the big bads, so Steve would have his NPCs kill them for us. It was that predictable. Jesus Christ. Why are you still playing with this guy? Why have you not just walked away? I mean, maybe he's like one of your friends, I don't know. Maybe somebody that you want to give the benefit of the doubt to, I don't know. At the end of the first season, we treated it as a TV show of sorts in its format. Steve announced that he wanted to step down and become a player. Fantastic! The reign of terror is at an end. So I volunteered to step up and become the DM, after Steve had already gone to great pains to kill my character for daring to be in a real-life relationship with Amy, who was my girlfriend at the time, who I am still with. Excellent, well done. I thought it best to retire him and make him an NPC. Not just any NPC, mind you. I got my revenge of sorts by making him a full-blown Inquisitor, and placed him in the background of the world to act as a sort of trump card to any of Steve's antics. This comes up a little bit later on, as when Steve eventually does play up, my Inquisitor is too far away to really help with the situation. Steve creates an Imperial Assassin of the Calidus Temple, a shapeshifter. Okay. Alrighty. Sounds like a cringe thing to do. The campaign continued, but in a different fashion. Now the party were tasked with some morally dubious missions that brought them closer and closer to full Inquisitor status. Some drifted away from even wanting to be Inquisitors, and instead were forming close ties to the Imperial military, namely the Tempestus Scions, who they helped out on a load of occasions, and in this more fractured Imperium, they were actually taking command roles in the Scions, even getting their own small military forces. Awesome. So I see how you're moving towards a tabletop, I like it. Each week, however, Steve would become more and more irate with the way sessions were going. No longer were the party the heroes, but were instead folks trying to make their way in the grim darkness of the far future. He would reliably try to steer the party towards the morally right choice, even if it meant giving up precious resources and even personnel. The first massive crack came on the world of Sebastus Prime, which was a Hive world. Okay, cool, we're going to a Hive world, I like it. 1 second. Just having a drink of water. I normally let YouTube put ads there, or I hope YouTube puts ads there when there's a bit of a break in the talk. Anyway, the party were tasked with getting an Imperial Guard commissar from the world that was under attack from the Death Guard. Now, in my campaign, Astartes are hell. Don't fight them if you're human. The party get down there and carve a path through cultists to the commissar and his retinue before calling for their souped-up Valkyrie transport vector to come and pick them up. I like the fact that you've got an Imperial Guard Valkyrie, that's cool. Steve, however, was not satisfied. You see, Mike, another player, as we described earlier, had been getting rather close with Polly, both inside and outside of the game. For weeks now, Steve had started making passive-aggressive comments against Mike like, well, if you want to do it that way, it's your funeral, and, I mean, it's fine to act that way if you want to, it's totally not a douche thing to do. Sarcastically, bear in mind, most of the time, Mike was literally just role-playing a character who is an Ordo Hereticus Inquisitor in the making. That's it. No overly cruel actions. In fact, he was a bit of a populist if you really boiled him down. Just things that got him and the party to the end of the mission in question. Now, Steve has started telling Polly's character that he thinks Mike is using her for his own gratification. Oh my god. That he plans to leave the party in the dust at some point, and that he is out to serve his own ends. Jesus, tonight. When she suggests he take this up with Mike himself, he gets angry and says she shouldn't need to. For God's sake. Small dick energy, man. Been experiencing it quite a lot over the past couple of weeks, but yeah, this was... reading this brings it home just how many other people have to put up with it on a regular basis. When she suggests he take this up with Mike, he gets angry and says he shouldn't need to. So now Mike wants to stay to save the people of the Hive world from a Death Guard invasion, with 5 PCs, a tired commissar, and his depleted Imperial Guard retinue. Jesus. The commissar all but orders them to leave with him, but Steve will not, and God bless them, the party eventually relent and tell Steve they will stand with him to get as many people onto the Valkyrie transport as they can. The Death Guard onslaught is relentless and costs the lives of not only most of the commissar's unit, but one of his legs, as Polly pulls him on board. He may bleed out eventually anyway. Steve gets onto the Valkyrie just ahead of Mike, who is shooting at Death Guard to buy him some time to get onto the ship. Steve then turns in the hatch to the flyer and kicks Mike level in the chest, knocking him back off the combat ramp with an insanely good roll to the shock and anger of the table. He leans over the table, smiles and says, "Nothing personal, pal, I just don't trust you. I never have," before sliding the door shut. Now, Jesus Christ, I would be... Let's see if the DM handles this properly. I want to see if he does. So what I would do here is probably try and orchestrate it so that Mike doesn't die and somehow comes back. I wouldn't give him his revenge straight up, but I wouldn't let Steve have his own way here. Like this is a douche small dick level of metagaming nonsense. So he says, "Now I do not metagame, so essentially none of the party saw this happen. I sigh. The Valkyrie takes off without Mike, and the party lives to fight another day. Steve sits back as if he has accomplished something truly amazing. The rest of the party try to roleplay noticing Mike is not there, and Steve sits there and tells them he died fighting the Death Guard and he saw it happen. But wait, this is about to get much worse. Now, I don't know how much worse, more worse it can get, my man, but you know, try. At the end of the next session, I decide to stoop to his level for a while. I have the first 90 minutes of the 3-hour session, at the agreement of most of the party, but not Steve, be about Mike's character and his attempt to stay alive. Steve is not happy, saying Mike is probably dead anyway, so why are we even bothering? In the actual start of the session, Mike grabs a grav jump pack from one of the dead scions and leaps from the top of a 500-odd story tall tower, getting away from the Death Guard in a hail of bullets and rage from Steve. He streams down to the surface, where he links up with a small god of a Tempestus Scions, trying to fight their way clear of trouble through cultists. Eventually they do, and they stagger on board their small strike craft. They all barely survive from their escape from the planet. In brackets he says, "I still would have killed Mike if he made any silly moves or was just unlucky with dice rolls. I don't metagame, but I wanted him to at least have a cool death." The shuttle breaks into orbit and Mike lives to fight another day, much to the chagrin of Steve. A few days pass on the ship in-game, and Steve is making more comments towards Polly about how Mike was weak. He is growing more and more desperate as he knows Mike is on his way back. He is metagaming the shit out of this. So he ratchets up his tactics, and whilst Polly is sleeping, he changes into Mike's form, I shit you not, and enters into her chambers and attempts to seduce her. Okay, yeah, this got worse. This congrats. I didn't think you'd be able to do it, but this got worse. This got worse. You have more control than I do if you actually go ahead with this, Opal. At this point, I'd probably be taking a large rulebook and twatting this guy around the head with it several times. don't accept this at your table. Don't even roleplay it. Tell him to fuck off and leave. Tell him to fuck off and leave and tell him why. Not appropriate at the table, right? Especially if you've already gone over what you want to get into, what you don't want to get into, right? If you've not done that, then you are inviting shit like this. But I've had some pretty weird people at my table, either virtually or in real life, and none of them have stooped to shit like this, right? They all know where common decency lines are, you know? This douche doesn't seem to know where they are, so this guy can go fuck himself and then can leave. But anyway. So, Steve states to me that he is doing this because in the warped brain of his assassin, he is trying to give her comfort for her dead lover. Oh my god. My stomach is starting to turn, and I look to Polly, but she is loving the campaign, just not this utter arsewipe. She goes along with it, but asks if she can roll to see if she can see through the lie, and even says that I, the DM, can roll for her, as she wants to concentrate on role-playing. In essence, this is a warning sign to Steve that he should back off, that he should have taken, because I can fudge rolls at this point, but he was so caught up in his glee that I think he missed it. I accept this, and make a mental note to fudge rolls if things go too far in the wrong direction. So, Steve gets into bed. Fucking hell. And Polly is, of course, pleased to see him, because she thinks it's Mike. Thankfully, I do not need to fudge rolls, as she gradually sees something is up, almost straight away, when Steve removed his clothes. His roll to change form was not high enough to cover some of his scarring. Scarring Polly knows, Mike does not have. She backs away, and eventually hits Steve in the face when she panics. He fails his rolls to maintain his form, as he is a trainee assassin after all, and reverts back to his normal self. Dick in hands. Polly runs from the room, and straight for the weapon locker, where she says she intends to blow Steve's dick off. Fair enough. At that moment, a Tempestus Scion Valkyrie docks with their ship. Daddy's home. Mike returns to the crew, walks over to a now beyond irate Steve, and shoots the unarmed assassin squarely between the eyes. He carries on firing, and to their credit, the rest of the players, minus Polly, try to restrain him, as they don't metagame. Their characters have no idea what the fuck is going on. Steve, however, takes far too much damage for me even to try to contemplate even saving him. But at this point, the cringe was too much to bear anyway. Steve slams his book shut, looks around the table, and says the following. Well, you all got what you wanted, you can fuck off. I am just trying to inject some realism into the game, and you simply cannot seem to handle it. This is not how you roleplay. I am off. See you later. Unsurprisingly, we let him leave. Jesus Christ. For fuck's sake. Alright, cool. The rest of the campaign really kicked off into something special as we had a really strong group of role players, and I would like to regale you with some of those tales sometime. Yeah, please do. Steve, though, in a real twist, has since changed and stayed in touch, and has actually been in therapy for about a year. He works in real estate now for a friend's firm, and has lost some weight, shaved, and is now nicely groomed, weirdly, and actually has a girlfriend. He seems like a genuinely nice guy away from the table, and it looks like the incidents like this shocked his system when they kept happening, to the point that it was either a choice of change or lose all of his social circles. I'm glad he seems to have chosen the former, but I still don't intend to be role-playing with him anytime soon. All the best, Conscious Opal. Wow, man, that is some yeah. That is an interesting one, to say the very least. Congratulations for you for having the patience to stick with this guy and actually, you know, try and teach him a lesson rather than just telling him to fuck off. I wouldn't have the patience for this, and I'm quite glad that you weren't self-inserting yourself into the story as a hero or anything. That's pretty cool, and it makes me kind of believe that it actually happened, which is quite nice. I would not have been able to restrain myself around this guy. I am not as decent a guy as you. You know, I would have absolutely lost my shit with this person, but, you know, is what it is, I'm afraid. It is what it is. Thank you very much for watching. I will speak to you all in the next Hobby Nightmares. Tomorrow we'll be doing a lore video on the Raven Guard, because it was requested, and, you know, I would like to start taking requests. If you want me to do any sort of Space Marine Legion or chapter, I want to do one of the 20, and we're going to do it more of a banterish lore video, rather than me just sitting here talking about lore. We're actually going to go with the banter and what I think works and doesn't work in GW's practices of doing lore. I think that'd be pretty fun, and we'll be doing those on Tuesdays, and maybe Thursdays if I've got time. Love you all long time. If you like what I do, the subscribe button is down below. I will see you later. Have a wonderful day. Have a good one.